Albert Blaine was born in Havana, Cuba in 1921. However, Albert Blaine was still a New Yorker. He'd lived in the city since 1923, the year his parents brought him and brother Roland to the United States. His father had chosen the guitar for Albert and Roland, and the two would become a duo performance act, recording extensively in the 1940s and 1950s. Albert Valdez Blaine studied with the master Andres Segovia, the performer and educator who was truly the father of the classical guitar revival of the 20th century. After he retired from the concert stage, Albert Blaine opened a guitar studio on 13th Street in Manhattan. I met Albert Blaine in 1974. I had heard of him by reputation, of course. Albert Blaine was not a fan of modern music and considered the electric guitar in any form to be an abomination. Even so, he was keenly aware that the electric guitar had motivated a good number of his students to move on, and up, as he'd say, to the classical repertoire. "At least my students will be good at what they do and be able to support themselves," he'd said when we discussed gigs we had played on the abomination. In 1983, Albert Blaine retired to Spain and passed away in Madrid in 2002. Albert Blaine was a huge proponent of the music of Agustin Barrios, and during those years when the music of Barrios was pretty much not played, he was assigning the pieces to his students and kindling an interest in the music in all of us. Julio Martinez Oyangoran was born in Uruguay and was a contemporary and friend of Agustin Barrios Mangore. He was also the first guitar teacher of Albert Valdez Blaine. This fondness of Oyangoran for Barrios was probably one of the seeds of the conflict that Albert Blaine had with Andres Segovia, who had years before squelched Barrios's career. That's not to say that Albert Blaine did not have deep respect for Andres Segovia. He merely did not share some of the same views Segovia had. I feel one of the greatest honors in my life was to have known the man and to have studied with him for 6 years.
Francisco Tárrega was one of the finest guitarists of his day. People came from all over Spain to study with him. There are many pictures of him sitting, performing in a parlor setting surrounded by his students, one of whom was Miguel Llobet, another one who some people believe was a student of his was Andres Segovia. Segovia always denied that he was at the feet of any master and basically claimed that he had taught himself, and there are reasons to believe that this is the case. However, there are photographs of him seated at the feet of Tárrega. Francisco Tárrega was a very interesting character. When he was a small child, he fell into a drainage ditch near his town, and because of the illnesses contracted, lost his vision. He was educated by the monks in the town who discovered his musical abilities and trained him in that direction. He played a Torres guitar, an 1870s era Torres guitar, with gut strings, and Tárrega was one of those people who said no to fingernails. Naturally a product of his time. He didn't really break new ground, however, he defined the art. There is not a single guitarist in the world today who does not play something, classical guitarist, who does not play something written by Tárrega. Andres Segovia was born in 1893, passed away in 1987. He is still a household name in the guitar world, and despite any other things to the contrary, he did do more for the classical guitar in the 20th century than any one person. He went out and publicized the guitar. He brought it to places where it would not have normally have gone, concert halls of Europe and in America. At the time Segovia picked up the guitar, it was more or less a folk instrument. Tárrega and Llobet and folks like that were doing things, but they were not getting the attention that their works deserved. Segovia, on the other hand, was a master of publicity and promotion. And what he did was literally put the classical guitar on the map in the 20th century. And he approached composers of orchestral music, piano composers, and asked them to write pieces specifically for the guitar. He cajoled them. He threatened them. Anyway, whatever he did, he got the work done. And because of him, we have a great deal of 20th century compositions written expressly for the guitar by some of the great masters. He also transcribed Bach. He transcribed some Chopin. His Bach transcriptions are really what we remember him today for, though. He also did some Scarlatti sonatas. What he also did was dig back, get up all the old vihuela music that hadn't been played in centuries, and brought that to the modern audience. No matter what your socioeconomic background was, the guitar was available. Because of that, more and more of the lower class people played it, and that was how it was seen, as a lower class instrument. So due to its popularity, it lost favor. Makes sense. In some strange realm it does.